Howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile, and in this video I want to give an overview of the synthesis mechanics post 3.6.3, so to give you a bit of a sense of what to expect if you've come new to the league or you haven't been paying much attention. Now firstly, this is a map, very easy tier 15 map. I just had a corrupted white one drop in a delve, so I thought I'd do that. And it will have, every map that you do will either have Zana or Carvis, depending where you are in the story. Carvis is a new NPC, you won't have met him before. And you'll get Carvis at first, and then later he'll be replaced by Zana in a lore event. Have one of these fragmented memories in it. These are areas that are basically like a breach inside your map, except you get, or actually probably more like Elva's incursions. You'll get ported off to a faraway realm where you'll need to touch a series of memory stabilizers. You'll notice here that there's only 2 for me to find in this zone, and you can see that here. One of them will be where you start, and the other one has a 50% chance, if you've got 2, 50% to be on the opposite side of a diamond-shaped grid, 25% to be on any specific adjacent side. What you do here is you precast any spells you want, then activate the stabilizer, and just wait a second and you'll see which direction the decay is encouraging you to go. Don't bother looting, you're under quite a strict time limit here, and you will sometimes fail these zones. If you touch that blue stuff, you will end up falling into the decay, and you'll be kicked out of the zone. Don't worry, you'll still get your loot. That's the end of it. Often you'll get more than just the 2 of them in there. And you'll see I've got a message here saying you now have the maximum number of unplaced memory fragments. That's because I'd already collected 9 and you're capped at 10. Go out into the blue and you'll fall out like this, and you'll get a loot explosion. That's basically all there is to the memory fragments themselves, but now we'll jump across to the actual memory nexus. Now you'll talk to Zana or Carvis, depending on where you are in your progression, or alternately you can use a command which is /synthesis in chat. So that would just be, at least I've heard that said, I've never used it myself. Now in the memory nexus, you'll see I've already placed a few of these tiles. You're able to place the tiles that you've collected from maps. These will either have 2 uses or 3 uses when they're fresh, and that seems to be random. That does seem that there's a slight bias towards getting 3-use ones if you're running maps with difficult mods. Each of these will have a monster level, so you can see this Lush Wetlands memory is an area level 81. That just means that it's come from an area where the monsters are level 81, so that's presumably from a tier 14 map. And you'll notice they also have various directions that they point. These can be placed together as tiles, and without going into strategy, I'll just demonstrate some of the tile placements you can make. You haven't actually confirmed any of these unless and until you actually get to the very start of the tile. At that point, you will confirm your trial placements by touching a memory stabilizer that looks very much like this. I have already confirmed this one. Now, in terms of these memories, some of these are fairly precious, and I just want to draw your attentions to this Paradise memory here as an example of one that is precious and that should not be used frivolously. The reason that it is precious is you'll notice it's got the line monsters drop items 3 levels higher, and that brings it up to an area level of, or to a monster drop level of 86. If you've looked into the depths of synthesis crafting, you'll see that it is very, very strongly tied to item level of the equipment that you're feeding into the synthesizer. There's a lot to explain about the synthesis crafting, and one short video can't do it justice, but the basics of it is that you want items that have that you want fractured items being some of the items you'll see a lot of drop in the Nexus. You want them to have very high item level, and you also want them to have locked mods that are of a very high tier. They don't necessarily need to be good mods. For instance, one of the most popular mods to have is light radius on bows. Now, normally you would never care about light radius on a bow, but if you have the top tier of it, then it has a strong niche. Now, one thing that I'm doing at the moment is I am trying to build up a sort of mega cluster of memories off to one side. What I do here is you'll see this distant eternal residence memory. This is not one that I've placed. This is one that the game has placed for me. So you can see here that on the map info that I have placed 9 memories on the map. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Most of those are just old ones that I've... oh, sorry, no, that wasn't one of them. That's the 8th and the 9th. And, oh, what on earth was that? That was some telemarketer calling me. So, that's the 8th and 9th items that are left out there. So, those are the placed memories. There are distant memories. These are ones that the game will automatically spawn for you sometimes when you complete a memory fragment inside a map or inside a story zone. These can be distant memories, like this distant outskirts memory, this distant aftermath memory, which will have some sort of reward in them, or they can be boss encounters. And you'll see that I've got one distant boss memory here. This looks monstrously difficult. It's an area level 83. It's a boss that's got 66% increased life, increased crit, onslaught, move speed, poison on hit, monster damage reduction, gaining endurance charges, gaining extra damage as lightning, and the absolute terror of a mod that monster damage penetrates 12% elemental resistances. So that one is pretty dangerous. So that's an example of a boss memory. Now these distant memories only have one use. When you enter a memory that only has one use, it will collapse just like the ones that you encounter inside your maps. So, my strategy for optimizing use of the Nexus is that I'll target some of these distant memories that contain memory modifiers, and what they do, when you acquire a memory modifier, you then pick any one tile that you've already placed. So I've been using this one, and ideally this would be a 4-way, but I didn't have a 4-way when I got started. And then you will then add an extra mod. You see those mods in white down the bottom? So there's synthesized rares, resurrected as an ally when slain, and area contains 3 additional synthesized chests which contain rare monsters. You'll get an additional modifier on the memory that you choose, plus everything adjacent to it. Now my optimized strategy for this is that you want your precious memories that are area level 83 and that have additional, that have augmented drop level as well. You want these to be the ones that you stack up all the extra mods onto. So for instance, on these ones, you would be then feeding addition. If I'd had more time to set up, I would have been able to do this. Instead of having an 81 memory here, I would ideally have an 83 with +3 monster level on it. Same here. This would ideally be a 4-way node, and there'd be something here and something here. And as many of these 5 as possible would be 83 +3 zones. However, though the monsters dropping items 3 levels higher mod is pretty rare. So you're not going to be able to necessarily do that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to path from the Nexus through this slave blocks memory, through this Grim Sepulchre, and through this Lush Crater, and then get this distant Eternal Residence memory. On my way, I'm going to check if any of these have... None of these have extraordinary mods that make them drop particularly a great loot. This one does have monsters drop items 1 level higher, but that only brings it up to 82, so it's nothing amazing. Now, because none of these are on their last use, I'm not under immense time pressure in these zones. So I can take it at a relaxed pace. These also drop maps now, and whilst it's not as insane for map sustain as the Delve Mines are, you know, every little bit that you can get does help. I think you get probably about 1 map per 10 runs that you do of one of these zones, assuming that you mostly full clear. I do just love the visual effects on Veil Fireball with that horrible Dragon Fireball microtransaction. It may not be the best Veil skill for this build, but I will say it's a lot of fun. And it does work too. Now here's one of the, this probably isn't any good, but I'll pick it up anyway. It's one of the fractured items, and here's another one. This one has no real potential to be good, so I'm not even going to pick it up. I'll just clear a few more monsters around the entrance to the next zone, and I have already placed that memory. It's not one that I'm about to place for the first time. So on a previous run through this zone, I had already used up a charge on this memory to plant this one properly. I believe. Oh, hang on. No, I'm wrong. Sorry. This zone is not placed. It's actually this one here. So I'm going to commit this. So when this is going to go from faded and still in my inventory to actually locked in like this one was. And that's when I tap that. So now I've got this. You'll also notice that this is on top of this yellow diamond that says 50% increased rarity of items found in this area. Item rarity is terrible in Path of Exile. Well, not totally terrible, but it doesn't do very much, so I'm not excited by that, but I'll take it. And just having a quick look, the mods here are they're real, this zone. It has some mods on it that matter. It's not trivial, but it's not super lethal either. Once more, this is not the last time through, so for that reason I need to loot as I go. If it was the last time through, you'd be under much more time pressure, and you would be able to loot at the end as well. Just like you can inside the memory fragments in the maps. We're going to keep running through here. And at this point, I would sometimes, given that this is a monster level 83 zone, if I wasn't making a tutorial at the moment, I would probably actually full clear it, or maybe not full clear, but come close to full clearing it. I've just heard a bearer go off, so I'm being... Oh, hang on, that was a map drop, maybe. No, it was a bearer. Always be diligent around those. And sorry about the coughs, I've got a cold. So this Lush Crater I'm going to place now. I'm going to commit that. It's already planned, but I'm going to commit it by hitting this memory stabilizer. And that's now placed. Now I've successfully pathed to the distant eternal residence, but I haven't actually gone in. Because I put an 81, a zone, monster level 81 zone here, this has inherited the monster level of 81. I don't believe it necessarily inherits the other mods, but I'm not sure of that. No, it definitely doesn't inherit the other mods. So that means that if you had a distant memory that had a fixed reward, so for instance this one here that has synthesized chests with valuable weapons and with fractured weapons, you might want to consider connecting it directly to an 83 tile. If you've got an 83 tile. So this rock pool's memory would be perfect. I could put that here. I'm not actually going to commit that, but I could put that there, and then that would make this into a monster level 83 zone. There's a lot more decay in this one, but that's just luck at the moment. There's no real reason for it to have lots of decay, and it won't aggressively grow like it does on the last use. You'll get to see the aggressively growing decay in the next zone, assuming that I can manage to not get killed here. I wish I'd kept a blooper reel. I was recording a tutorial video the other day, and I managed to get killed 3 times by a betrayal fortification because I was being careless. So I'm going to go into this Eternal Residence. It's already placed, so I don't actually need to hit the memory stabilizer to lock it in. Now, notice that the message has changed. Interact to access the memory. Decay starts on interaction. So, we interact. And now we've seen one path has been swiftly cut off. We're forced to go the other way. And you can jump over that with certain move skills, but I would suggest you don't do so. you get sent the way you're meant to go. And here's the end of the zone. It's very quick and easy. Now at this point, you'll see that there's a portal that's opened up to the memory entrance. This is a huge improvement that was made in 3.6.3. It's not so much that the memory entrance has a portal that you can go back to the memory entrance. It's that from the memory entrance, which is where you get sent if you fall into the decay, you can come straight back here. So now I can go and kill monsters to my heart's content. Confident that I will still get the reward that I've earned. And you get that as soon as that portal appears, which is when you get very close to the end reward. I'm not going to pick these items up. Not because I don't want them, but because they will be teleported to me at some point later. So, some of these monsters are pretty mean. Especially given this is only a monster level 81 zone, so not an area you expect to be particularly fiendish, but the synthesized monsters are just more powerful than the typical trash in delves. Oh, sorry, in maps. Now at this point I seem to be pretty close to cut off. I'm going to see if I can find anywhere else, and oh yeah, here's a couple more monsters to kill, but I think I'm out of time. That's fine. I'll fall in deliberately now, and you see I get ported to this platform. Now if I click this memory stabilizer, that causes the entire memory to collapse, teleports all the loot that I'd earned to me, and it can be a bit difficult to actually find some of the items because these things have such annoyingly large icons. But anyways, that's the way it goes. One thing I also do is I quickly overrule my loot filter and just pick up the small currencies that I wouldn't normally want to see, but that I will actually use from time to time. Now I've got two memory modifiers to use. I'm going to use both of them on this same rock pool's memory that I was outlining before. So this first one duplicates up to 3 synthesized rare monsters, bonus. And this one. These synthesized magic monsters have a double chance to drop a unique item. Neither of those are particularly great bonuses to that map, but they're something. Now at this point, I've finished everything that I needed to do from the Memory Rewards Island, so I just go back to the memory entrance. Now I've got a couple of options. I can go back and run these reward nodes, and in fact this is what I'm going to do because I've gotten to... There is a maximum of 5 additional memories that you can stack on a specific square. So I'm going to run all of these, and then the next set that I lay out, I will try to use better starting tiles. However, I do just want to lock in this tile first. The reason for that is that you can only carry 10 tiles at a time, and I'm already so close that I may as well go and do it, get it out of my inventory, and save me the save me from having to come back to the Nexuses soon. Certainly am feeling here, in a way that I don't feel in tier 16 maps, certainly feeling that I'm squishy. And a lot of that is just due to me making sacrifices for, well, sacrifices both to deal more damage and also just out of laziness and not wanting to get gear. That tile there disappeared. It evaporated because it's been used up. That means I could now, if I wanted to, reuse that location. So for instance, one possible path I could do at this point, and I may actually commit this, depending on what the monster level there is. Yeah, that's a perfectly viable option. I may do that, but I'll leave myself flexible for the moment. But I'm happy with where we're looking now. So I'll return to the Nexus, and I'll just run one of these zones in this video, and then run the rest of them later. So now I'm going to run this Bloodbath memory here, which is an 83 with 5 additional bonus mods on it. It has 2 runs left, and it will have for both of those runs it will have the 5 additional mods on it. However, I'm going to throw loot into a dump tab for starters, because there is going to be crap everywhere in here. Or at least there's the potential to get crap everywhere. There's no guarantee, but there's enough potential. I also can't remember whether this is a large zone or not. So I have run it once before. Now you'll notice that. And that's... Oh! Well, that is what happens when I'm a bit careless. Dying in the Nexus is no different to dying anywhere else in the game. Now there was a really nasty, well, really sort of nasty / nice bug previously where it didn't cause you experience loss in softcore, but that has been fixed. And it always was going to be fixed. That's why I didn't talk about it, because it just felt so obvious that it was wrong. Now, basically the idea here is just simply, there's no specific objectives, it's just like an additional map zone that you've gotten for free, and that you've got all those, essentially what you can think of as 5 sextant mods on them. And then you can have things like abysses in them, you can have breaches, and you often do get those special zone effects too. It seems to be more often than you get them in maps. So you can think of this basically as a half-size tier 16 map that's got huge density and that's got huge more dangerous mobs than usual, and that can drop the fractured items. About to find out potentially if you can get a what do you call it, abyssal depths here, which I don't know. Being an 83 zone though, jewels, any jewel except for that would have been valuable. But ghastly eye jewels, unfortunately, there's too many of them in circulation for them to really be worth anything as crafting bases. Because of the immense pack size of these zones, things like abysses do just generate a lot of monsters. I think it's just more than you would get normally from an abyss. There's also seems to be a strong bias towards very dangerous monsters in these zones, as was evidenced by my rather stupid death before. But hey, that's the softcore life. I'll get to 94 at some point, and that'll be when I start playing carefully. So this is actually quite a large zone, which is helpful. Now, in terms of the quality of the memory of the effects that you get from the memory modifiers, I'm not sure of any way to influence what you get. So my approach is just take the first 5. It's not like with sextants where you can roll over. Oh, and again, too careless. I really do need to invest in a bit more defense on this character, though. It's I'm not getting away with it anymore. Not in here. So yeah, it's not like sextants where you can just roll over things that you that you can roll over things. You put a bit of work into getting those sextant variants on a bunch of mobs. Oh no, that was really slack. I clicked the wrong button. I really should make a blooper reel, but every time I give commentary, I just die so damn many times. I probably should take an actual betting pool on how many times I die in the next video I record. And this comes after all of the Delve cities I've been so damn careful in today too. One thing I think this should show is that the synthesis since 3.6.3 can be a significant part of your map sustain. This short time in here, I've not invested any maps, and I've received a 16... Oh, so that is one I really need to pay attention to. That ability. It's quite an obvious telegraph, but I just thought I'd face tank it and ended up having to wait out a big ignite. Yeah, so I've had a 16 and a 15 from these zones that I've run, and I've only used 4 charges. Now those map drops have been better than I was expecting, and one of those, one of them, the zones that I've run has been a juiced up one with five distant memories on it, but it still gives you a sense that there is quite a lot of loot to be had in here. In terms of other things, this is... this doesn't really seem to have much potential at the moment, but one of the things that I do, there's often, because the synthesis crafting is so complex, I generally throw all fractured items for a period of time at least in a 15 chaos tab, because sometimes the mods that you can't see a use for are exactly the mods that someone else needs to craft a masterpiece. Sometimes you would have got more than 15 chaos for it too, and you know, ones I think have potential are priced higher, but I think it's a pretty good safe ballpark figure. Start them at 15. If they don't sell, drop them to 5, and if they don't sell at 5, vendor them. It's not really worth saving them up for yourself. Now, Solar Self-Found will be a bit different. Solar Self-Found, you will have to find pieces yourself. The ones that'll be worth something are high item level energy shield bases that are the best types. So that's a Val Regalia, that's a Sorcerer Boots, that's a Sorcerer Gloves, or Titanium Spirit Shield, or the other shield. Those are the ones that will hold really serious value if they're item level 86. The other one to look for are there is one other thing. I'm just trying to think. It's slipped my mind. Is it oh yeah, of course, synthesized rings and amulets are really worth paying attention to because they have some very powerful potential mods, and also synthesized boots that have a locked-in 30% or move speed or higher, and especially if they have 35% move speed, which is only available on item level 86. Anyways, hopefully that has both given you a bit of an opportunity to laugh at my stupid deaths, and also a bit of an insight into how I'm dealing with the Synthesis League mechanics at the moment. I'm not claiming this is necessarily the absolute best way, but it has been working for me. It gets results, so I'm happy with it. If you found a better way though, do let me know, because who knows, may just end up copying you. Have a good one.